Guys, this politician just had such an insane crash out. You gotta see this. The context is in Australia, similarly to what we've seen in the UK, the EU, the US, etc., etc. The government is trying to essentially remove anonymity on the internet and censor the internet, trying to control the populace, what many would say is governmental overreach. And so we'll just read the first few paragraphs here from theconversation.com, then get to the clip of the politician crashing out. They say, by the end of this year, the experience of using search engines in Australia won't be as simple as it's always been. That's thanks to a new online safety code announced yesterday by Australia's e-safety commissioner, Julie Inman-Grant. Among other measures, it will require all Australian users to provide assurance of their age when they sign into a search engine account. Many criticizing this, pointing out how this means that simply even like Google Maps, for example, will require users to submit their biometric data for this so-called age verification, because how dare people who are not adults use Google Maps? It's all kinds of absurd. But okay, how does that relate to this politician, Senator Lambie, having this crash out? Well, she's very upset at people who are criticizing the government, who are pushing back against these regulations. How dare you not let the government control you in every way, shape, or form? How dare you try and stand up for yourself and the people? And so Aus Integrity says, you just have to laugh. Senator Lambie leads an unhinged rant that Australians are calling out lies of the government, then pushes disproven false flags, then says Australians need to be censored, then in the same breath complains about false information from government and laws need to be put in place to ensure truth from politicians. In her view, the way to calm everyone is to censor everyone. It's these very deranged views that cause extremism. Silencing discourse of a population never leads to peaceful outcomes. And so the first 2 minutes of this clip is her actually bringing up things like sovereign citizens in Australia and people critical of Australia's COVID policies back during the pandemic. And she then tries to conflate this with people who are pushing back against the government regulations regarding what we went over the online stuff, trying to get people to submit personal information under the guise of protecting kids and all that. So I guess, when their rhetoric of, oh, we're doing this to protect the children is failing and everyone's calling it out, then they try and bring up these other situations that have nothing to do with this, conflating it together very disingenuously to try and justify what the government is doing in trying to control people even more. So yeah, that's the first 2 minutes of it. I'm going to skip ahead and show you right where she actually starts talking about these regulations and the action that she wants the government to take against the people and also against companies like YouTube, like this very platform.
But the extremes of these beliefs and the amplifying of these views on social media led to the murders of 2 policemen and a Queensland man in 2022 and the awful events that are still unfolding in Victoria today. And it's about time that we started putting real pressure on the social media companies to control the mis and disinformation that these algorithms pump out. You're not doing anything. That's the problem.
Yeah, but the thing is, we've seen people, including politicians, journalists, and even random Redditors here and there saying this exact same thing, where they'll point out some alleged misinformation and then try and use that as justification to censor anyone who opposes their ideology. That's really what it comes down to.
In 2012, Facebook said its mission was, listen to this, and I quote, to expand and strengthen relationships between people, end quote. 13 years later, nothing has happened but the opposite. And Facebook, with other social media companies, including YouTube, all they do is fanning division and hatred within our communities. Extreme examples of this include the
It kind of seems like throwing stones from a glass house when she's saying that, doesn't it?
January 6th attack on the Capitol building in Washington in 2021, when Americans who believed Trump's lies that the 2020 election was rigged stormed the Capitol building, their own, and seriously wounding American Capitol Police. Since we got social media, we now have more countries in the world run by dictators. Work that one out, where people don't get free and fair elections and the civil rights that we enjoy. Social media companies know more about us than our governments do. They design their algorithms with one purpose in mind, to increase us clicking and increase their profits. It's just about money. They don't give a stuff about who we are.
Yeah, obviously companies want money, and social media has arguably brought a lot of negatives to people. I think it has, but I don't trust her either. She comes off like she just wants all that power to herself.
If these algorithms can be so targeted, why can't they target mis and disinformation? Instead of the algorithm that sends Australians down these rabbit holes, serving them up more and more conspiracy theories that make them more afraid and more paranoid. We still don't have laws in this country that deal with truth and political advertising. You can't lie.
Yeah, she wants that ministry of truth. That's what she wants.
About a product in Australia, but you can sure as hell lie in political campaigns. How is that leading by example and saying that is acceptable behaviour in Australia today? That is not acceptable behaviour. We need to get onto this.
Well, obviously, I don't think politicians should be lying. But to me, it seems like she's very selective about who she wants to allow to lie and not lie.
It is really time to put pressure on the social media companies and start talking regulation.
Here we go.
What is your fear of social media companies? You lost control of social media when it comes to our kids, and if you think AI is
Oh yeah, think of the kids. Haven't heard that one before.
going to be any different in the future because you're already miles behind, you are bloody delusional yourselves. That is the truth of the matter. You must get onto this. You must show some courage. Do you know it got so bad during COVID? I had people in Tasmania telling me that serum going into their arms was forming a microchip. Well, I have you know I've had my body x-rayed over time because of my back complaint. There are no microchips running around in my body.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think whatever she took was to put a microchip in there, but I gotta say, she's not making a compelling argument when she's like crashing out and her eyes are rolling back in her head when she says that.
It's the misinformation, disinformation that is going on in social media. Okay, that is the reality of it, and we need to wake up in here because people are getting harmed because of it.
I totally messed up the rewind. I wanted to see the eyes rolling back again.
X-rayed over time because of my back complaint. There are no microchips running around in my body.
Bro, oh my gosh. And so, like I said, you know, to be fair, there were a few valid points regarding like social media companies being corrupt. Politicians should not lie. But I don't trust this person when she's talking about regulating social media platforms to stop spreading misinformation and or disinformation. To me, what she really wants is her specific agenda to be allowed and anyone critical of it to be censored, right? That's how I'm taking this. And I've seen a lot of politicians say the same exact stuff, and it all tends to play out the same way. These people want to control the flow of information because they don't want anyone to criticize their policies and their rhetoric. And so what does that amount to? She says, hey, be brave. Do the right thing. Be brave. And her definition of being brave is apparently don't question the government. Let us do whatever we want. And then the final thing she says as well, this is a classic line from politicians all over the world. That being, they make some sort of like perceived threat of violence. Like, oh, we like, you know, people are going to get harmed or violence is going to happen. That's why we need to take these measures to control people.
Okay, that is the reality of it, and we need to wake up in here because people are getting harmed because of it.
Yeah, so that's always like another massive red flag for me when a politician says that. I've seen far too many politicians use that exact rhetoric to try and justify, as mentioned, government controlling people even more, censoring people even more, basically trying to stop and censor anyone who would be critical of them in any way, shape, or form, etc., etc. I thought this comment was interesting. It says, Tassie, how has she gone from the great hope to censoring us, enemy of the people? It's incredibly how quick they can be flipped on a dime. So apparently some Australians saw her as the great hope at some point in time, at least, you know, according to that comment, which really doesn't tell us all that much, but I thought that was a bit interesting. The more she speaks, the more deranged she sounds. I mean, I already said if I can't get over her being like, there's no microchip in my body, and her eyes are like freaking glitching and she's like spazzing out, like, bro, like, if you're gonna say that, at least try to sound like normal when you say that. Like, it's just not a good look, right? It just, look, I'm going to say it as nicely as possible. It just makes her look silly, okay? And then, yeah, let's take a look at this one. Lambie is clearly poisoning the well with some random story she found about microchips and Bill Gates. By the same metrics, we should call all politicians stupid because Lambie talks. Yeah, again, like the first 2 minutes of the video was her bringing up like Australian sovereign citizens and stuff like that and trying to conflate it with people critical of the Australian government and like these regulations they're trying to enact on people for things as simple as using Google Maps. Oh, you want to use Google Maps? Okay, submit your biometric data and let us have like 24/7 location tracking on you as well. You know, it's just all kinds of ridiculousness. But hey, that's the latest from Australia. Let me know what you guys think about this stuff in the comments. Hope you enjoyed my coverage. If you did, please consider liking and or subscribing. Helps out greatly. Appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one.